Well, good afternoon, everybody. I'm Deb Sofield, and you're listening to my weekly podcast series called Encouragement for Your Life. Most of you know I'm a national speaker, trainer, and coach. I like to say I help people find their voice and learn to use it. I'm also a conference speaker on the topics of public speaking, presentation skills, how to deal with the media, and crisis communication. I've got a number of other presentations on my website if you'd like to check those out. If your organization has an upcoming conference and you need a keynote speaker, I hope you'll reach out at debsofield.com. I would love to be a part. I've got a number of great books on the market. My best-selling book, Speak Without Fear. My book, Perfecting Your Platform. Both of those are on Amazon and Audible if you like to listen to books. And my series, Encouragement for Your Life, which is a compilation of these podcasts, they're available on Amazon, volumes 1 through 3. Just go into Amazon, type in my name, Deb Sofield, all my books will appear. I'm so glad you joined me today. I've got to say, this show is probably a little more serious than some of the others I've done, but I have to admit, I think there's a place for it in today's world, and I'm calling it, Hey friend, you are not responsible for how other people treat you. I'm Deb Sofield. Thanks for joining me. Stay tuned. We're going to get started right after the break. Recently, I was watching a TV show about re-entry from death row prison to freedom. The man who was telling the story said that through it all, his mother would tell him that no matter what happened in life or death, he was not responsible for how people treated him, but he was responsible for how he treated himself and others. A tear came to his eyes when he recalled the words of the one woman who never stopped loving him, believing in him, trusting in his innocence, and continually prayed for his release. Needless to say, I was also in tears to think about 20 years plus he sat on death row, knowing he was innocent. Wrong place, wrong time, wrong friends. And then finally being released when the evidence cleared him. Talk about inner strength to set his feelings and emotions aside and walk tall and proud, unencumbered by his past, into the light of freedom to be at rest. Responsibility. Man, it is not a word people like to hear these days because it requires work. It's so much easier to blame others instead of looking inward to see what is required of us to live up to our own personal standard of excellence. We see it all around us nowadays on TV, online, talk radio, as well as billboards, and it often casts aside the idea of one's responsibility, and it's easier to blame someone else for the faults and issues or problems that arise. It's hard to set aside the emotions that bubble, flare, or simmer under the surface when others treat us poorly, and usually unjustly. And it stings when others discount our ability, question our ethics, or put us purposefully in a bad light to make them look better. That one never made sense to me. A bad light makes everybody look bad, but I guess if you want to tear someone down, you don't stop and think about how they look. Just Deb's opinion. Remember, friend, you're not responsible for how people treat you, but you are responsible for how you treat others and yourself. I know you've heard the phrase, how people treat you defines them. How you respond defines you. It's a well-known phrase and similar to my theme for today, but the difference is subtle. And here is where I find that it matters. When all is said and done and the dust settles, you will come to realize that it is about you, entirely about you. No more, no less. There will come a point in your life, or perhaps it's already come, when everything that you are is standing on the line between respect and kindness, anger and revenge. The line is thin, and a step in either direction will likely have lifelong consequences. You have to make a choice. You have to make a decision on how you're going to respond. And please know that this is the moment of decision that very well may define your life. I'm working on a new media class that I'll be teaching in a few weeks, and I've been researching the technology makeover of social media in modern elections. As a speech coach, I'm fascinated by the dynamics of how politicians now communicate with the voters. The research points out that this social media shift is often seen as altering the tone and content of political speech, which in turn affects our conversations and lives. Writer Joel Lee points out that social media users, everyday people like you and me, have a tremendous amount of power today. And when that power is combined with the pervasive growth of outrage culture, social media becomes a destructive force that can ruin innocent lives. One simple mistake is all it takes for your life to blow up. Death threats, bomb threats, racial tension. Even in jest, these can be misconstrued to turn an entire world against you until the world's sense of justice is satiated. I, in my work, call it the weaponization of social media. Our friend, be careful out there. More importantly, be compassionate to your fellow human beings. Online shaming is serious, and this culture of extreme internet drama can't be sustained for long before it all collapses to the detriment of everybody. People make mistakes. Which brings me full circle to this. You will have to make a decision of how you want to respond when the mistakes that others make towards you. Your reaction at that moment of decision may very well define you for life. I'm not sure how loudly I need to yell for you to step away from the fire of your reaction before you're burned. Remember, friend, you are not responsible for how people treat you, but you are responsible for how you treat others and yourself. Listen, we've all made mistakes we're not proud of and don't like to talk about or admit. When I was younger, due to my haste and not thinking through for the long term, I wasted time and money, and I paid a high price for my errors in judgment. Frankly, if I could go back and be mature in my thinking and action, the outcomes would most likely be very different. However, as they say, with age comes wisdom. And unfortunately, back then I wasn't wise enough to consider that short-term gains may result in long-term pain. Man, that's the trouble with youth. You don't know much. And what you do know is usually wrong. Man, thank goodness I finally grew up. Another blog post I've spoken and written on this topic, cautioning you to stop taking on the responsibility for other people's actions. Now listen, I'm not talking about your personal responsibilities that you're accountable to yourself for. What I'm saying is don't get pulled into someone else's troubles because they need a shoulder to cry on, someone to pay the bills or do the work, and ultimately someone else to blame. And as odd as it is, have you ever noticed they never admit it was their own fault because they're such a failure? No, they don't. They just act like it just, magically happened to poor, sad sack, sorry them. For years, I had a quote on my Twitter page, or X now, that says, if it's not your business, it's not your burden. I want to say that again. If it's not your business, it's not your burden. Go ahead, write that down, put it on your refrigerator. Think about that for a minute. Why would you take on someone else's responsibilities? When did you become a pushover for bad judgment? Or are you so weak that you continue to pay for their self-made problems to keep the peace, or at least keep them out of your house? Maybe you're just tired of hearing them whine and bellyache. And when you throw time and money and energy at them, it satiates them for just a few more minutes. No matter what you feel, stop. Don't do it. Let them wallow in the mess they made, or at least have them call someone else to bail them out again. If you keep stepping into their problems, they will never learn how to do things on their own, take responsibility for themselves and their actions, or figure out how to live without their wants, not needs, wants that consumes their spendable time and money. Friend, you are not responsible for how they treat themselves. You're only responsible for how you treat yourself because you matter. Hey, don't get me wrong, they matter too, but they can matter to someone else. I know I sound harsh. You know what? It's just my nature. And I'm pretty sure you're going to tell me that you've tried to cut the purse strings or the apron strings or the emotional ties. I can hear you saying it. But Deb, you don't understand. They are, and I'll let you fill in the blank with all the excuses for not teaching them, helping them, preparing them for life. Trust me when I tell you I have heard them all, and I'm still not convinced that your indulging them is good for them. Life is hard, but protecting someone who could protect themselves is not helping anyone. In fact, you may be single-handedly setting them up for catastrophic failure when you and the money are gone. have to say, I'm going to do a quick detour. I love the quote from the Senator Kennedy of Louisiana. Life is hard, and it's harder when you're stupid. Okay, that's just an aside. Let me close with this final thought about moving beyond the way others have treated you in the past. I need you to remember that no matter what they did to you, for most people, that was done in the past. How you live your life today, in the now, in the future, is in your hands. And as hard as it may be to bury past hurts and not dig them up again, this is a decision you need to make and be comfortable with for the best of your life. I'm not ever going to tell you it's going to be easy, because it's not. I am here to tell you that you are not responsible for how people treat you, but you are responsible for how you treat others and yourself. Treating yourself with mental, emotional, and physical respect that you deserve is the inner strength that you will have to set your feelings and emotions away, to walk tall and proud, unencumbered by your past, into the light of freedom where you can be at peace for the rest of your life. All right, I admit, tough love. But here's the key. We all know people like that. And friend, if you're not careful, they will wreck you as they just bounce along through life because they don't care. You know, there's that line, I don't leave people because I don't care. I leave because they don't care. It's something like that, but that's the point. All right, believe it or not, you've been listening to Deb Sofield's Encouragement for Your Rockstar Amazing Life. And I titled this, Your Amazing Life, because you have one. You just need to break free from those that are pulling you down and off your path to freedom and success. I hope you'll join me next week. I've got another great show. Yes, it's probably tough love, but you can take it. And I want you to remember this truth. Deb doesn't care what the world says about you. I care about you. And I care about you because I believe you can do big things. But friend, that is only going to happen when you understand that you are not responsible for how people treat you. You're not. You're responsible for how you treat yourself. And here's my promise. I'll walk alongside you, encouraging you to live your best life ever as we watch your dream come to fruition. All right, thanks for joining me. Have a great weekend. I'll try to be a little kinder next week, but don't count on it. You've been listening to Deb Sofield's Encouragement for Your Life. Have a good one, everybody.